This video is a bit of a warning on two counts really. First for Black Friday and secondly for the Christmas season, because obviously lots of people are going to be trying to take up the best deals that they can and buying lots more gifts for themselves and for each other as we come up to Christmas. But because of that, I read lots more stories about both things, so this video is to bring you a little bit of a warning. So welcome back, but if you're new to me, I'm a barrister who helps you understand law. So let's begin. Which one shall we begin with? Let's begin with the Black Friday deals. What seems to be a good deal is not always a good deal. It's like when you're in the supermarket and you see the bright yellow label that is dragging you towards that particular item. It's not always the cheapest and the best deal on the shelf. Very often, the best deal is the one that is completely obscure and doesn't have any bright labels attached to it and doesn't have any special deals attached to it. That might very well be, when you look at the price and the weight comparison, it might be the best deal even though it doesn't jump out at you. The same might be true with Black Friday deals, because it's been reported in the newspapers that lots of different retailers, without naming anybody in particular, lots of different retailers are headlining certain discounts on certain products, but that might not actually be the best deal, even though it's labelled up as a Black Friday deal and it's supposed to be far better than it used to be before. But many of these have been investigated, apparently, and you look back to the price previously and lo and behold, there was a better price some weeks beforehand. Now, there are some ways to get around this. One of them is to use the plugin Camel, or the Camelizer as it's sometimes referred to. This website, when looking at Amazon prices, for example, will give you a historic value both from Amazon and from third parties and indicate to you whereabouts the current price sits on this trend of pricing over the last weeks and months. If you want to ensure that you have a genuine bargain for this Black Friday sale for various products that you buy on Amazon, I would suggest that you check this out first. My experience has been actually that most items that I've bought are a genuine discount, but perhaps just because I take my time to make sure that I generally have the best deal. So now coming to the second warning, which is when you buy something expensive, such as a phone, you want to make sure that it actually gets delivered to you. Now, here's the problem. What if you are handed the box by the courier and you take it off them and you open it up inside and you get, as one woman did in the news article, a large pair of plier wire cutter type things. Now, apparently they were a similar weight to the phone, so she didn't think anything of it when she took it from the courier. The lady told the Sun that she got in touch with Amazon straight away to say that she'd been sent the wrong product. She'd been sent a pair of wire cutters instead of the phone that she ordered. Initially, according to the article, Amazon replied to say no problem at all, just send it back with this label and you'll get a refund. But as you probably guessed, by the time it got back, Amazon didn't give her a refund, according to the article, and instead said that you've sent the wrong item back. You need to send the phone back if you want a refund for the phone. But of course, she said she didn't have the phone, so she couldn't send the phone back. That was sort of the point. And according to the article, it took weeks and weeks of arguing back and forth until she eventually got a refund. Now, what do you do in a situation like this? Because with Christmas season coming up and even Black Friday, everyone is going to be buying things that they might not have been buying before, and they might be buying expensive things, and let's face it, some things do go missing. So any of you that are sensible enough to have watched my channel for some time now will know that I always say it's always about the evidence, because if the retailer doesn't give you a refund, you might ultimately end up in court. And if you end up in court, you're going to have to back up what you say with evidence, because otherwise it's your word against theirs. Your witness statement will be a form of evidence which you will sign, and that becomes your evidence in chief in a civil court. But the court is going to also look for any other kind of evidence to back up what you say, and to the would-be defendant for what they say. Now, the would-be defendant, in this case Amazon, I can guarantee you, because the way they operate is by strict procedures and they have a procedure for everything, they will have a scanning checkpoint for every step along the way. They will show, at least by way of a paper trail, that it's quite clear that this phone was shipped and left the warehouse with the courier. Therefore, at best, it's going to be the courier's fault, and you're going to have to look, or they're going to have to blame the courier and claim an indemnity against the courier and so on and so forth. But if you don't have any evidence, but they do have a long train of evidence to show that this thing was sent out, when in fact perhaps it wasn't, you will need to look for something to refute that and back up your claim. Now, as I've said before, this might be a bit tedious, but whenever I'm buying something expensive, I will film the opening of the box. And I will do a running commentary, and I will film the seals, and I will talk about the seals. I'll do a close-up of the seals. I will show that it's definitely sealed. If it's an Amazon box, I'll show the Amazon tape to show that it's definitely sealed. And I'll film myself all the way around the box, and then I will film the opening of that box to show that if it's not what it's supposed to be, which hasn't really happened yet to me, but if it's not what it's supposed to be, you'll have it on camera. Now, as someone that goes to court to argue these things, I can tell you that that's going to be far more persuasive than simply your saying so. Now, the court isn't just going to disbelieve you just off the bat, but the court will compare it with evidence presented by a would-be defendant. So in the case of Amazon, by way of example, as I said, Amazon will have a long trail of evidence if they end up in court to show that this thing was actually sent out. If all you have is your say-so, that might be difficult for a court to side with you. Whereas if you have this filmed evidence of you opening the box, which is contemporaneous, it's detailed, you've got a commentary, you can show the seals on the box, you can show you opening the box, it will show whether it's new inside, whether it's broken inside, whether it's even inside at all. And this has actually helped me at least once or twice in the past. I've ordered something that was large and it was porcelain and it was broken inside, but I would not have known that had I not opened the box first. But you know what the couriers are like, they are not going to stand around while you open the box. This, in particular, this one had a wooden frame around it, so that actually took quite some time to open. But having removed the outer layer, I could see that it was broken on the inside without actually removing it. So for one, the courier wasn't going to hang around to do that, and secondly, I wouldn't have had any proof that it was broken on delivery had I not filmed it. Now, one idea might be that you can ask the courier to stick around whilst you open it to check that it's actually right. But then what do? You have this awkward exchange with the courier when it's not the correct thing, and effectively you might end up with an argument for the courier to say, well, it wasn't anything to do with me, because the courier, the driver, him or herself, is not going to want to get blamed for the loss of the goods. And either way, even if you do open it in front of the driver, you still don't have any evidence. You only still have your word against theirs. So even then, if you end up in court, the courier might well blame you and the retailer might well blame the courier, and you go round in circles. Whereas if you do it my way, you do have a filmed evidence. That's not to say this evidence can't be tampered with. I'm very well aware that some people might be able to tamper with a filmed opening of a box, and that might turn into some kind of scam. There's always a scam in anything, but at the very least, if you can show that you're of good character and you've got evidence, it's contemporaneous, this is far more likely to be persuasive that you've opened the box and indeed you've got a pair of wire cutters or something else in place of what you ordered. I know this sounds very tedious, it sounds very long-winded, it sounds a little bit overkill, but it will be far easier to show what's happened if you film opening the box. So there it is. Those are my two tips. First of all, with the bargains, to check that it's actually a genuine bargain, and you can use the Camelizer or you can use any other kind of checks to determine whether it really is a good deal. And for buying expensive things, always, in my view, always film the opening of the box, and therefore you've got contemporaneous evidence of what's inside. So please do share this video with someone that you know is going to buy something expensive and perhaps might fall victim to this kind of thing and struggle to show and argue that they've not received the correct thing. And thank you all for 250,000 subscribers. I'm really grateful for that. Please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe right now if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next time.